Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode, technically third, but who's counting? Second
Oh
episode
my
of
God, dude.
The Architect and The Operative. I'm Selim Maalouf, and joining me is a James Bond.
Sorry to already like hit you with the second and third and O1 and O2 and like where are
No,
we?
it is funny, and for people listening, I'm a very process minded guy, and like I always find systems. And for our filing system, I always have a way of like creating code names. And for some reason, as someone who's done coding in his life and knows that arrays start at zero and not one, I kind of decided to number our pilot episode as one, and then episode one as two, and so forth. So I just created like a small headache for everybody involved here. So that's what that's what James is annoyed about. But this is
Sorry
the
for that.
second true episode, and we've gotten some interesting feedback. Like last time, we were happy that we heard that people we haven't talked to in a while told us, "Hey, we like the episodes," but more and more we're getting these impromptu responses of people telling us like, "Hey, the other day I sent you one of our coworkers." Told me, "Hey, I'm sending you a scheduling link. I hope you're okay with that because I listened to the entire episode, and it was just a funny anecdote, and I'm happy with the impact that we're having, even though we barely started."
Yeah, a lot of it's really cool just to see the variety of spaces the feedback's coming from, right? Old cohorts, current cohorts, just it's really cool. A lot of different backgrounds that are listening, so it's fun.
Yeah. And also, I know that our snippets are garnering some attention, sometimes some contentious attention, because I was almost fighting for my life in the comments the other day, and it's just
I feel so
I.
bad. I didn't come to your rescue at all. I was like, dude, just keep at it. You're fine. Go at it.
But yeah, we're straight shooters here. We have unabashed opinions. We're very like I would talk for myself and say I'm very opinionated, and I don't have milk toast opinions. Like I have controversial opinions, and that's kind of why I'm where I am today. But I'm happy to tone it down if you want. But like this is me.
No,
This is who I am. And if you don't like it, please still watch the episode, and please like and subscribe and share it with everyone. So
it's a rule. Like it's not. This is not optional. We're just who we are, and this take it or
yeah.
leave it. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So last time we did a lot of bashing about AI, and we need to continue. I'm just joking. This time we're going to talk about some fundamentals and some traditional, guidance around general sales. And a lot of people, with the advent of all these newfangled tools and like these complicated tech stacks of, oh, I need an app to do outreach. I need an app to cover the CRM. I need an app to write my emails. I need an app to wipe my butt. Like it's during this time where a salesperson comes in and says I need 20 apps, people are losing the fundamentals. And I kind of want to like take a step back and have us talk about a couple of those fundamentals. One of which I've encountered a lot. I've worked in the industrial space for the better part of the last decade, and a lot of the sales reps in the manufacturing space have been at it for a very long time, uh, and they've been doing this ever since they were operating on Rolodexes, and they know everybody in the industry. Everybody knows everybody, and they feel like the value they bring to an organization is basically the address book they have, and so their contacts. They feel like their contacts is what the value that they bring. And as a result, when I've worked on implementing CRM systems in these companies, I've gotten some extreme backlash and some flat out refusal of using these systems from similar salespeople. I haven't gotten that vibe from young salespeople who have gotten onboarded on these tools from the start, and that's all they know. But like from veteran salespeople, that has been a big contentious issue. And I'm interested in hearing a bit more your thoughts, because you're a well seasoned entrepreneur, and you've gone through, the days of having to, write stuff down on pieces of paper, and are now working on cutting edge.
Really? How old do you want me to feel?
No, listen. You got stuff done when we didn't have
Yes.
all of these systems, and that's a valuable insight
Yes.
that you can bring to this conversations.
Sorry, I'm particularly like a little bit fired up today, so I
No,
have
I
to
like it.
jab you to like, you know. Okay.
Hey, honestly, sometimes these topics are a little bit drab for people who don't care about them. So like, we got to make this fun for listeners.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, I just thought you just said Rolodex. I just thought of this guy. Here's the challenge. Let me lay out the challenge. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Hey, here's the solution. Here's what you need to do." No, I'm not going to do that. I have thoughts and I have suggestions and I've had successes and I've also had failures, but I just thought of this guy, seasoned sales professional, didn't want to be a manager, didn't want to own his own company, just knew the product we were selling inside and out, had been selling it for 20 years, and had a index card box that it was like the nuclear code. Like, it was like he had it, he'd left his car and he would handcuff it to him and he'd walk into his desk and he'd unhandcuff it and set it right in front of him. That was his lifeline. Every single, I was in the fitness equipment business at the time. And some listening I used to work with in the fitness industry. They'll all know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm not going to call him out by name. This guy, God love him, would take out this index card box, and he had every single deal of his entire fitness career by index card in this box, and everything about it. And he had a certain format, and he had the name, he had the address, and he had what they bought, and he had the date, and he had this filing system that I couldn't understand, but it made sense to him. And whether it was a pair of 10-pound dumbbells or whether it was a $30,000 home fitness center designed, he had it in this box. What comes to mind is that's really no different than what I look at every single day. Like, it is the same. I look at it, I have my contact, I've got the activity I've had with them, I've got what are they related to, how many deals have I had with them. He had the same exact thing. It just was on an index card. So, several problems in here. One is, I don't know if you wanted me to go into this right now.
No,
I'm
go ahead.
wanting to do it. One problem, of course, is that this guy, well, we say typically, hey, this guy gets hit by a bus. What are we going to do? A more positive way is this guy wins the lottery. What are we going to do, right? Although this guy would probably show up the next day with his index card box if he won the lottery anyway. So the
He'll have it
challenge
gold
is,
plated. He'll have
yeah,
the box gold plated.
he'll get a new pen. And so he's got the information there and it's his. And for a company that makes companies uncomfortable because they've invested in creating traffic to generate opportunities for him. He's closed it and he's captured the information. And yeah, the purchase is in the company's system, but there's nothing else. There's nothing else there. Everything resides with this salesperson, right? And that makes companies uncomfortable. And I understand why that makes companies uncomfortable. I was a leader on his team, made me uncomfortable. We had no access to it whatsoever. Today's world, the amount of like actionable targeted messaging that we could do with that database that would catapult his opportunity to sell more is staggering, right? So from an owner perspective, it's not just a negative, oh, he has my data. No, it's not that. It's like missed opportunity, huge missed opportunity because it's all sitting on paper. Okay, that's the owner perspective. Struggle. I get it. It's real. Rep perspective is, this is my life's work. This is my relationship. You may have spent money to get this person into my presence, but I've done all the work to get the sale, and I've done all the work on the follow-up. Oh, and by the way, I've got 20 years of contacts here, and they bought a treadmill from me 15 years ago, and guess who I'm calling tomorrow? Because I'm calling tomorrow the guy who bought 7 years ago. So I get the power and the value of that data that he's got as a person. So both challenges, both have perspectives, right? Okay, what do we do with that? Well, I think everybody has to like find the value and not skip that. What happens is the owner perspective will come in and say, well, I paid for that person to get to you and I should own the data. A better way to say it is, hey, I could help you sell more if I had access to the data. And that's missed opportunity for us and for you. The rep should come in and say, hey, I've got all this data. I've got like all this history. How can we work together so that we can generate some opportunities without me having to flip through the card to look for who I should call that was 7 years ago, right? And so I know I say it a lot, but it always comes back to mindset. It's the number one thing skipped over in this whole process, whether you're a buyer of software, whether you're a seller of software, or whether you're a user that is told you have to use the software now, always comes down to mindset. How are you going to approach it? Where is the value in the situation for both parties? Back to the owner perspective, man, salespeople are like, a mentor used this to me. Salespeople are like thoroughbreds. If they win the race, they want a steak dinner. If they lose the race, they want a steak dinner. And that's that. I mean, as an owner, you got to deal with these personalities, right? The only way to do it is not to hammer home, do it or it's not your deal. It's to find the value, right? Create some value in the CRM for that person so that they can get some wins out of it. They can feel like, hey, I got some wind in my sail. I got this, assistant now that I don't have to pay, that's pulling together the information as I go throughout my day and I send emails. Man, that assistant puts it right in this little file for me. And guess what? Now the system's tracking that person. And when that person does things that I don't know about, I will get alerted. There's some value in that for me, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
launched too far, but it's
no. In fact, I will be building on that. So, organizations today have a view of what the CRM software salespeople, sell them. They sell them a world where the sales reps are using the CRM to do the work of 5 people. And these are typically young people who were hired not because of their, their big contact list. They were hired because of their ability to hustle and close. So like the value is understood that it's not in the database. Then you come to these seasoned salespeople and tell them, hey, you remember how all these years everybody chased you because you had that database and you knew the right people? Well, now we want to take that away from you and want to share it with your brothers. And they're like, no, these are my toys. I don't want to play. I don't want to share. Go get them their own contacts. And so that's what I've seen with my own eyes. There's a specific instance where a new sales leader was hired, and we were onboarding her and doing basic setups like Outlook and telling them like, hey, let's set up HubSpot. And we told them like, hey, let's sync your HubSpot, let's sync your Outlook contacts with HubSpot. And she was like, immediately, no, don't do that. These are my contacts. And at that point, that was my first, interaction of that kind. Like, What do you mean your contacts? Like, these are everybody's contacts. Fine, you don't want to sync it, but any net new contact you generate here is going to be, we're going to need you to put it into CRM. She's like, no, I'll put it in my own contact. And we told them, no, that's not an option. That was a high ranking salesperson. But what I'm trying to say here is CRMs are modern tools with modern expectations. When we're trying to implement them in older organizations, you have to manage that change. When people hear we're going to implement a CRM, they hear micromanagement and pipeline policing is coming. They hear, oh, my streamlined process that I've done for so long is going to get overcomplicated and I'm going to slow down my process. And they hear, like, all we care about is getting our reports. We don't care about making your day better. So, like, you hear leadership teams saying, we need visibility, so we need you to put this data in. That's all they're hearing. They're hearing, we need to police you. We need to know what you're doing. We need to track you. And honestly, if I were in their shoes, I also be apprehensive. Like, no, you're just trying to micromanage me. I don't want to use the system. But we both know that a well implemented CRM can actually increase your productivity if it is properly onboarded and designed and tailored to the specific process that you are interested in doing, instead of it being forced on you. So, like, trying to fix that from a technology perspective is tough because there's a leadership problem that needs to be fixed before. And like, so like, how do you fix that big brother mentality of like, no, I'm not trying to police you. I just need to make decisions that are downstream from your activities, and I need the data to inform my decisions. So I cannot lead this organization properly without you giving me that data. And I admit I haven't had enough experience in-house to be able to solve that. Now that we're on the agency side, that's kind of not our problem. But like, I haven't had a successful implementation where the sales reps were older and like kind of were holding their cards close to their chest, and the CRM always was a death knell for them and was a sign that they were going to be redundant soon and be replaced by younger people who don't really care about retaining the contacts.
Yeah. Well, let me say a bunch of things that owners and leadership don't want to hear. Number one, perfection is unattainable. Just get off your fucking high horse. I mean, perfection is unattainable. You like that. There's a tendency when buying software that the thought of adding this perfect tool may be the best tool. It may even be the best tool for you. There's just a tendency to like have this feeling come over you that says, oh, this is going to solve all my problems. Buying software does not solve a culture problem. Like, if you have a culture problem, you have a culture problem. Solve it through culture revamping. Re-engineer your culture. It's not going to solve it. You can't buy the best tool in the world and solve your culture problem. So I would say CEOs, business owners, who especially are delegating to leadership to find this CRM solution, just know that if you're getting feedback that your sales team is not excited about this CRM, you got a culture problem. Now, it doesn't mean you can't overcome it. In general, they may not be excited about it on first glance for the reasons you just mentioned. Get that, totally, right? And there might be one or two that are sort of vocal, and they're performers, and they've probably been there a long time. Totally get that, right? It's our job, and it's the salesperson of the software's job. It's our job to overcome that to the degree that we can, right? How we do that is we find ways to get value out of using the system without asking much of them. And then we build on that. It's just like rebuilding a culture. You rebuild a company culture, you take one step at a time. You don't have one meeting and say, hey, by the way, we have a new culture now. It doesn't work in companies. It's the same thing. If you have one or two salespeople that are like been there a long time and they're like, you got to find them some wins, and it can be small. Here's the other thing I'll say to CEOs and leadership. Don't underestimate the power that small wins can have when implementing a CRM. Number one, gives you visibility without them having to do a lot of work. Number two, it gives them the understanding of, hey, how this could work. Once they see that, ultimately they want to sell more. They may like their system. They may be tied to it. They may be afraid of the big brother concept. I get all that. But ultimately, they just want to sell more. I mean, those guys in particular, right? That group, they just want to sell. So the more they get used to the idea, oh, can help me sell, then the more they're going to come along. Here's the other thing you don't want to hear, not you, owners, leaders, whatever. They don't want to hear this. You may or may not turn that resistant top tier performer into the CRM champion. You might, but you may not, and that's okay. You'll have other champions. The goal is just to find that little piece of value here and there for that top tier, just a little bit, and then let them come along slowly. By the way, they're your top performer. It's not like you're losing anything on day one. I spent all this money on this CRM tool and my top guy is not using it. It's okay. They're your top person.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. Just relax.
Yeah.
They're still selling.
Yeah. There are a couple of tough pills to swallow for both sides. The one that's obvious is for management teams who are designing this implementation for the CRM, and when they're going through the work either themselves or with a partner like us, is to not just design for your visibility. You also need to design for your users, who are the sales team, to have a better process. If you don't have that in mind when you're designing the system, you will have a system that will be rejected on day one. The tough pill to swallow for users is whenever there's change, things have to get worse before they get better. Every time there's a new CRM, you're going to slow down. Your process is going to slow down. Even if the CRM is well implemented, there's a learning curve, there's a change period, there's a transition period. Everybody's going to slow down. Your throughput is going to go down. You're going to feel like, oh, this thing is slowing me down. It is. It is slowing you down at first. But once you get up to speed and once you give it a honest shot, it will eventually make you 10 times more efficient. Now, I've heard some interesting thought experiments from multiple sources that kind of align. This is not about CRM specifically. This was about an ERP implementation, but there was a case study with another organization that I worked with. The leader had a very aggressive approach. They wanted to implement a new ERP, and that ERP is basically the lifeblood of the business. So you can't really build that bridge while you cross it. So he decided, I'm going to shut down the company for 3 weeks. And during these 3 weeks, the entire company is going to work on getting off of the old ERP and getting into the new ERP. They sent out messaging to all of their clients saying there's 3 weeks delays, and they messaged everything. He bet the house on this ERP being the change that is needed. And
I'm on
this
pins
ERP,
and needles for the result.
Yeah, and this ERP was I'll ruin the surprise, the ending. It was a very successful implementation, but it doesn't mean there wasn't some people who are left behind. And that's what I'm going towards. Is this ERP was a new interesting ERP that kind of hooked into computers next to machinery and kind of delivered shop drawings for people working on the machinery, and it was turning the entire shop from a paper system to a paperless system, even with blueprints. So that's a big change. His best machinist decided to take a stand and say, I will not be using this system. His best machinist. And he said like that like replacing him is gonna hurt. But he decided, I'm betting the house on this. I will not lose this bet. And he, in front of everybody, because that person took a stand in public, he decided, I will make an example out of you in public, and fired him on the spot. And everybody was shocked. And there was another person that said, "Oh, this is bullshit. I'm leaving as well," and they left. But the end result, everybody gave the system a good shot. The implementation was a success, and they removed a lot of inefficiencies of papers going through, and a lot of missed papers and a lot of problems. It was the right decision, but he bet big and decided to remove any big dissenters. I've heard this as well from Matt Bolian. You're familiar with Matt. He's at Superd, and he has this philosophy that he talks a lot about. It's the sniper shot, where sometimes, and he describes it very vividly, like sometimes you need to be the warden in a prison. And everybody gets shocked. It's like, why are you describing this? No, we need a culture, like a good, welcoming environment. And it's like, no, sometimes you need to be a warden in the prison. And if you see a dissenting voice that's going to derail your CRM implementation, you got to have a kill shot. Doesn't mean you have to fire them, but you have to make a public display saying that, hey, if you're fighting this, we're not going to have it. That goes directly against us saying, like, you gotta bring people in with the honey. You can't like force them to use the CRM, because I personally have seen it. When you force people to use the CRM, they will do the bare minimum just to check that box, and that data is not usable. So like
some of it can be. We don't have to go down that road. Some of it can be, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So hearing that, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
What comes to mind is you got a problem already. You're blaming it on the CRM, or you're blaming it on the ERP. Like, you're trying to solve a problem with the ERP, and the fact that you had your best person as a dissenter, as a distractor and not interested, is a problem in your business. It just happens to be showing up while you're revolutionizing your delivery mechanism and your system, your backbone. So hats off to the desire and the guts to push and go for it. Like, hats off. But the person that stood up and said, yeah, I'm not doing this, get them out as fast as possible. I don't care how good they are. I just don't. If you're a small company and you got two salespeople and one of them does $3 million a year and one of them does $200,000 a year, and you got a problem with your $3 million person, yeah, you're going to have to tiptoe around that until you get to a point where you're in a good place. But if you're a company that has multiple resources that you draw upon to deliver a result, and one of them in there might be a top person, but is a negative influence, man, I'd much rather know at the beginning of the project than at the end of the project. I'll deal with it. You're going to build a team, build a team. But this applies to everything. This is not ERP install. It applies, go like watch films on football. Like, it's freaking everything. That's not where the value is. It's just not, man. I can't handle it. I have can I tell you a non-software story that's right up this alley?
Yeah, of course.
I work for this company. We acquired a competitor. It was actually an expansion territory, and they had this sort of flagship location in the industry, in the country. And I felt like it was underperforming, but I didn't know. I wasn't in it yet. And we're coming in and we're sort of meeting the staff, and this is sort of, they had just gotten bought. You get like, people get it. It's an awkward situation, right?
Deer in the headlights kind of vibe.
Yeah, we just bought their company. Here they are meeting, right? I was a hothead back then. I'm this new hotshot freaking director of sales, and I'm meeting the staff, and I'm like, what do you think this store can do? Right? In my head, I know where I think we can go based on, it's not just whims. I have a lot of data that tells me that, right? But He doesn't know that. So he's like, they did 2.8, 2.9 million frequently. And I'm like, do you think we can finally break 3 million this year? In my head, my goal was 5 million for that store, but he didn't know that. And he's like, everybody knows this guy in the company that's like been around forever. And man, I've been in this area forever, man. This store will never do 3 million. It will never, this area is all about square feet. It's not big enough. We'll never do 3 million, ever. I don't care what you do. This store will never do 3 million. I said, is there anything I can do to change your mind? He said, nope, been doing this too long. And I said, thank you. Have a nice day. You can leave now. The owner looked at me and said, he's the number 2 salesperson in the company. And I said, he can go now. Thank you. Bye-bye. 2 years later, we did 6.5 million. Number 1 store in the country. It's all about like, man, what kind of mindset you got? What's that machinist going to do to the rest of the company if he doesn't quit and walk out? And now he's forced to use the system he's struggling with because he's not bought in mentally, and he's going to complain about it every day. Now everybody else has got to hear him complain about it. Man, get that guy out of here as fast as possible.
Yep. So
sorry, not the technical response you were probably looking for, but that's
actually
get him out.
A lot of the tech conversations you hear every day, you always feel like this human element is missing. And is a lot of times we get CRM projects that feel so convoluted and complicated, and then when you take a moment and think about it, they're kind of trying to fix a problem using tech that needs to be fixed using human conversations.
Thank you for stating in one sentence so eloquently what I've been trying to say for the past 10 minutes.
No, you're welcome.
You're spot on. That's exactly right.
But yeah, so it's something that I've fought with a lot, and honestly, these guys deserve a good system, and these companies deserve to keep their talent. And this is just an unfortunate situation that a lot of times is encountered with all of these CRM revolutions, basically. But
let me just one thing before we go on, and then sorry.
Yeah.
I'm lit up. So it doesn't mean the product doesn't matter. I'm saying mindset's critical. I'm saying culture is critically important. I'm saying they're not mutually exclusive, and they impact each other, right? But it doesn't mean the product's not important. You might have the best mindset in the world. You might have the best culture in the world. I've built some phenomenal cultures and some phenomenal teams, and then screwed up the tech and paid the price. So it's not that they didn't want to do it or learn. It just was bad. And that's on me. So you still have to buy the right product, and you still has to be implemented right.
Yes.
But you can mess that up if you don't have the right mindset and culture. Yeah. So just point that out.
You cannot automate away your HR problem. Let's just say that.
I'm starting to get pissed off with the one sentence eloquent restatement.
You
have
like that
4 bumper stickers already, and I'm just rambling. Okay.
I'm like that manager who listens to his team, gets all the ideas, and then goes to the CEO and says, "Hey, I think we should do that." Yeah. So, you and I are on a lot of sales calls, and sometimes we face this thing where it feels like we're playing poker, and it's not really a conversation. And honestly, I would like to keep playing poker as a fun activity that I do once every month, instead of it being on sales calls. I know you're kind of fired up about that, and when you mentioned that topic to me, so I would like to hear your thoughts before I take the buyer side, because I also have patterns that I've recognized in myself when I'm the buyer, that I understand. Yes, sometimes you hold your cards close for specific reasons, but I'm interested in hearing the seller side.
You may, and it's not saying those reasons aren't valid. I invite you to work through them. And I really I'm super passionate about this topic. Salespeople that are struggling, the first place I tell them to look is, how do you buy? Tell me how you buy. If you're going to go buy a car tomorrow, how are you going to go? What's that process like, right? Because that typically tells you how they're selling, right? And I don't know where in the world I have some sense, but I don't know exactly where in the world it became okay for the buyer, the customer, to not be responsible for their part of the transaction. I don't understand the mentality of, I'm buying and therefore I'm not going to help you. I'm buying and therefore I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to hold the information that I want to hold, and therefore your job will be more difficult, and that's on you. And I'm speaking in buying and selling across the board. I see this everywhere. Why is that okay? I'm just speaking, whoever's listening, as a person. Why is it okay that the buyer's not responsible for their part in the role? If you're not honest, then shame on you for ending up with the wrong product. Sorry. What am I supposed to do? I don't have all the information. Right? And so in our world, getting back to our world, in our world, information is absolutely critical. I mean, we are the business is in our hands. They've got all of their data in this other system. It needs to come out. It needs to come into HubSpot, which is where we work now. So we need to get it out of this old system and into HubSpot. We need every piece of information we can get our hands on to make sure that goes smoothly. This is your data. Why are you holding cards to your chest? What value could that possibly hold in your mind that you don't want to tell me what's going on? And I remember when I texted you this, we need to talk about this, because I had a deal, super tight timeline, coming off of Salesforce, coming into HubSpot, wouldn't be honest about their termination date in Salesforce. Do you think that's an important piece of information for us to have?
It's the main one.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What are we doing?
Your quote. Well, but I would want to say, what are you doing? Why do you think this is helping you to not be honest? Maybe there was some embarrassment,
They waited until last minute
They waited until last minute, and now they're stuck. I don't know what they've told the CEO. This was C-level person I'm talking to, and I don't know what they've told the CEO. I don't know the promises made. I don't know what the team knows. There may be some management of, their world and what their representation of what's happened. I don't know, but let me just say, sometimes I wish there was 50,000 more people listening when we're talking, because there's some nuggets in here. What I want to say is, if you're ever in a situation where you are concerned about sharing information, not confidential information, but information that is important to the process, and you have a reason to not share it on the public call, private message whoever you're working with and say, listen, I need to have a sideline conversation. I need you to have some information that I don't want to get a megahorn and blast it out. I would have much rather that C-level person text me, DM me, email me, probably couldn't email me because it was tracked. Somehow I got my cell phone on my email signature, text me, hey, this is this person.
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah, whatever. I need to speak to you offline. Can we please do that? I mean, it would have made such a difference. It would have made such a difference in their world. And there's this is not new. buyers feel like I can't give you that information because you will have control of the sale and I will get sold something I don't want to sell. Man, that's on you. Be a person. If you're going to buy something, be honest. I'm not buying this month. I am buying this month. I'm buying this year. I'm not buying this year. I need these products. I don't need some of those. Can we please spend our time on the valuable things that I see are valuable? Not could I go on 3 demos to end up telling you that part of the business I've already bought another software. Like, it's just like, come out with it already.
Yeah.
Let's
And
just put it out there.
yeah, I feel like I need to clarify my earlier statement. I differentiate custom solutions from off the shelf products.
Yeah.
And I engage with those sales conversations very differently. And I've been on this side in 2 industries, in this tech industry on pre-sales, helping solutioning, and in the end of line end of line production line design in the manufacturing space. Like I was an industrial engineer, and I was the one building those solutions, and I need all the information because we're not talking about at most a 6-figure CRM implementation. We're talking mid 7-figure, 8-figure, big greenfield projects that need like 3 years to be built and commissioned. So like we need all the information, and we used to get that information piecemeal. A lot of my learning was to learn how to extract that information early, and you get your checklist and you know what to ask for, so you can mitigate that. But so I agree with you wholeheartedly that during those custom solution sales processes, there needs to be open dialogue. Everybody needs to share all of their information because you will definitely get the best outcome for you, not the salesperson. You will get the best outcome for you if you're open. But if we're talking about off the shelf, and I'm glad you said think about how you buy. People buying in the last 6 years changed a lot. People now, I can't say with the advent of online content. Online content has been here for forever, but recently people have gone from, oh, let me talk to an expert and let's discuss what I need off the shelf, and we're at a point where people feel like they need to do 70% of their journey alone, self-service. So if you're an organization that doesn't have, marketing, documentation, information, use cases, reviews, all of that online for me to consume on my own before I raise my hand and say, I'm interested in your product, a lot of people like me feel like not compelled to continue the conversation. And I find myself in a lot of cases where I don't have that documentation. I find myself purposefully, not maliciously, but purposefully getting on demos that I don't have intention on continuing with, because the only way for me to get that info is to get on a demo. And like a lot of people are starting to do interactive demo online that you can do yourself. Great. I love it. But I find myself going into a conversation with a sales rep, wasting their time because I know I don't have budget, or I'm not in the market for it, or I'm looking forward to 8 months ahead. And that frustrates them a lot. But honestly, as a buyer, I find myself feeling like, well, it's not my problem. It's your team's problem, because I could have gotten that information without wasting your time if you had it on your website, if you had it somewhere else. So, but yeah, I feel there's a lot of learning that needs to happen with current buying motions. Deciding on, do you want HubSpot? That's something you can decide on your own. Working out what you need to do a custom integration and implementation, and figuring out your process and figuring out how that costs, that is a custom solution that needs open dialogue. And the earlier you do it, the better.
Yeah. Well, I need to just take 1 minute and back up a second and own because in that rant I just let out about a customer, man, I don't want to let myself off the hook. I need to own the fact that I didn't get her to the point. Either I wasn't trusted with the information that she was holding back, or I didn't call out in a way that whether she liked it or not, I needed to know the information, right? Now, ultimately, I just want to close the loop on that. Ultimately, we had to have that dialogue, and it was an hour before signature. And I had to say, sorry, I can't own what you're looking to achieve. So when you sign this, just know that I will not own your deadline. I will not own the result you're looking to achieve. I will not be responsible for accomplishing what you wanted to get out of this implementation, because it's not going to happen. If I would have had this information 3 months ago when we first started talking, we'd probably be in a little bit different place. I own that. I didn't get it out of you. But based on this information, and we're back to the transparency thing. I can't do it. I can't own that. Like, it's not going to happen. Now, here we are. So now we've been honest with each other. Here we are. It's not that I don't care. I'm just being open with you about what I can commit to. Based on what we can commit to, we're going to need to triage this situation. Let's go. Like, let's roll up our sleeves and let's triage this, because we've got some shit to do, like, now. So
Yeah.
let's figure out what we're going to do in the world of, hey, we can get this done in this way, not what you wanted, but this is how we're going to do it, right?
Yeah. I feel, now that I'm thinking of it, like, I feel they want to squeeze out the concessions from one party, and when there's a bad situation, the buyer is trying to squeeze out the concessions from the seller instead of sharing the concessions and having, like, part of the concessions on our side, as far as, like, oh, we want the requirements, maybe we can shave off a little bit of the requirements, we can loosen up the timelines, you can do something like that, and then the seller's like, okay, I can squeeze timelines on my side without surcharging you, or, like, it's I feel like people have been trained to not give any concessions, and you end up in bad situations like that because of it.
Yeah. I think it goes back to, like, mindset and value. Like, just focus on where the value is going to be. It's not about greed. It's not about getting off on somebody. It's not about getting over on some. It's not about that. Just focus on the value. That's just, like, at the end of the day, one guy's going to get a little bit better deal than another guy because they worked it differently. That's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean they end up better. It just means they may have paid a little less, but their overall value they end up getting may or may not be the same or better. So just let that go. Focus on the value you're looking for. Own the value you're looking for. Be honest and transparent with whoever you're selling to, which includes, by the way, maybe, hey, Mr. Salesperson, may I just be completely honest with you just to save ourselves some time? Sure. I'm not feeling like you and I are, like, gelling. It's not really working for me. I don't want to upset you or get in the way of anything, but just in reality, this is not really working. I need to speak to someone else, not in a shitty way, but I feel like this is not going to go well, and I would like to own that now and not 2 months from now. Fine. That's totally fine. That's included in honesty. No problem.
And you might end up in a situation where you're salvaging a deal that might have otherwise not happened.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Where are we?
Sometimes people, when they listen to us, they forget that we're working in HubSpot specifically. So let me take a moment to talk.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, I'm not wearing my my orange shirt today, but I still have my orange pop filter here. But sorry.
But see, because because no matter what, like it doesn't matter. I love HubSpot. I do. It's the best tool I've ever worked on. There's no question about it. And ultimately, you should end up in that place. But the process you go through is the same for any system, for anything you buy, for any major asset you buy. If you're buying a machine, if you're a factory, it's the same. You're buying a car as a human being, it's the same. You're buying a CRM, it's the same. You're buying an ERP, it's the same. What I'm passionate about is not letting go of the fact that there is a role you play as a buyer and a seller, and you should play them full out. And it's not just about we love HubSpot. I do, but it's the same. Had to say it.
Yeah. The reason I say that because sometimes it's worth talking about like new HubSpot features because sometimes new HubSpot features unlock different processes and unlock different ways of going about your revenue operations that were not really possible before. So I know you're familiar with the orders object inside of HubSpot, correct? Yep. So the orders object showed up around like a year ago. And it kind of coincided with the time where HubSpot started building off-the-shelf integrations with ERPs like NetSuite and Microsoft Dynamics. And at the same time, when they were restructuring this data architecture, they decided, hey, let's revamp the Shopify integration as well. And when we're thinking about ERPs and e-commerce platforms, it makes sense that you would need some type of visibility about your order flow, be it in an ERP as a work order or from e-commerce as like just net like transactions. But what HubSpot did was lock down that orders object and not make it available to create new records through the UI. And I get that. Unlike contacts and companies and deals, you don't want people to start creating new orders because orders mean revenue, and if that revenue is not coming from anywhere, then your accounting is going around saying, I see an order here. Where's this transaction? Where's the money? Money's missing. So I understand that, but you lose out if you don't have an integration with an ERP or an outside system. You lose out on the ability of managing orders inside of HubSpot. Recently, HubSpot added another way to implement orders inside of HubSpot, which is through a CSV import. And some people were like, yay, now we can create orders inside of HubSpot. And I tested that recently and realized the same restrictions that we had before when doing integrations still apply when doing imports. So your transaction data is still read-only. So whatever you've imported through that CSV is still read-only. That makes sense. But now you've opened the world of order management literally inside of HubSpot. You're going to ask me, what does that mean, Selim? I'm sure you have some ideas, but what's exciting is think of your personal experience when you're a buyer in B2C. When you buy a new computer, when you buy, I don't know, a set of knives. It's not because I bought a set of knives last week, but
it 100% is because
yeah, like you always have this experience where once you trigger your order, you get a welcome email, you get some type of onboarding email, you get some documentation, you get shipping notifications, you get, oh, your order's coming soon. Go ahead.
Hopefully get.
Yeah. We're talking about good processes here.
Okay, good. Sorry.
But basically, all of that interaction that you have before receiving your order, especially if it's an order that's being delivered and you're not picking it up, or even when you're picking it up, like a notification of your orders in the building and stuff like that, we know that all of that is possible in HubSpot because we do it using deals, we do it using tickets, using our custom objects, but now we can do it using orders. And I don't know about you, but like for small businesses that have their order data clean and they don't have the need for an integration, they still deserve to leverage, HubSpot's power of all the automation and reporting and communication. But now that is available, and I'm interested in hearing, like, when I describe this for you, like, what are the immediate things that you think about?
I think about a deal I lost because they just were priced out. I mean, they just couldn't do it. Uh, it's a side note. It goes back to being honest because the rep was not being honest with them or with me. And so here I am in this conversation, and there was no honesty about the guy had a budget. He told the rep budget, and that was not shared with me. So we spent three sessions going over, here's how we can get all this data into HubSpot for you, and it's this price. And he's like, I don't even know why we were having this conversation. I was very clear to the HubSpot rep before I even knew who you were what my budget was. And the budget was 10K. It's not like it was nothing. It's not like it was $1,000. I mean, it was 10K. I mean, do some stuff with 10K. Anyway, it makes to mind that because that's what he needed. Like, that's what he needed.
Like
So
a once a day or a once a week
yeah, that's
import
all
for
he needed.
orders. Yep.
That's all he needed, right? And even if he has trouble getting it out of his current system, he's a few deals a day, company. So I mean, okay,
You update your Excel
just track
spreadsheet
it.
and then just
Just
push
track
it.
it and get it into the system. You're probably doing that anyway for your reporting because your ERP sucks. So you're probably doing that for your reporting anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love
There's
that.
a there's another piece that I didn't mention, and you know that, but you know it, but you might have not thought about it. You know that with HubSpot CMS, if something's is in HubSpot, then you can surface it onto the CMS. So
Yes.
now a private login customer portal similar to an Amazon experience is possible, just because we have now the ability to put that information inside of HubSpot. So imagine the entire process from order to receipt. You have the communication automated. You have all of your task notifications, all of your reminders, progress tracking through a private portal online. All of that
Dude.
comes together, all because now we can simply import a spreadsheet and not have to do an integration.
Yeah. We're doing so much cool shit with the content hub and gated sites. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. Even the reps are like, what? We're like, yeah, dude, we'll just do it
Yeah,
this way.
and it's honestly simple. Really, the rule of thumb is, if you can get it into HubSpot, then you can easily put it on the website. But people lack imagination. So when you say that, they're like, "Well, what do you mean? Can I do contacts?" You're like, "Yeah." Can I do companies? Yeah. Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." As long as it's inside of a record in HubSpot, you can
Hmm.
surface it up to the website.
Yeah. How many phone calls did my sales rep make? And can the sales rep look at it, look at that? Like it's all that shit it's so huge. So anyway,
Cool. This is a fun conversation, but I don't believe anyone is interested in listening to like a 3 hour podcast, even though I've been on a couple of those. Those are fun if you don't care about who's listening. But uh,
I've done an hour and a half. I may have done one or two 2 hours, but that's about my limit. Yeah.
yeah, I've personally produced an episode that hit the limit of this recording software, and it threw up an error and said out of storage on somebody's
Stop
computer. So
talking.
like, yeah. But yeah, this was fun. Episode two. Really excited for people to listen to it, and for a takeaway. What's your takeaway from today's episode?
Other than episode 2 is labeled as O3, and our
Yeah, that's something
system.
that people don't see. It's just for you and me to fight about.
Um, Man, my takeaway is that it always boils down to the same thing. It's a mindset, and everyone plays a role, and they all have to be managed, and they have their own management of it. And as a leader, you have to own the fact that you got to manage it too. And some of it may be challenging, and some of it may go smooth, but you know, it can't be ignored. Like, it's just got to be dealt with, and there's value in it. You just got to find where the small pieces to get things together, and um, you know, it's find the value, approach it right, and work through the process.
Yeah. Not to be too cheesy, but like since the beginning of time, uh, humans were never replaced. We created tools. The tools augmented the humans. They didn't replace them. When the internet came, the internet augmented people, didn't replace them. All these tech stacks and interesting like CRM tools do not replace people; they augment them. And even with the new AI stuff that we apparently are haters of, I was called out that being a hater, but um, that also augments people, doesn't replace them. So anytime you find yourself trying to automate away your people and get frustrated why these people don't collaborate with you in that situation, know that you're looking at the problem from the wrong lens, and you need to work out your people problems before trying to implement new technology systems. James, if people want to find you after this episode, even though like most of them are watching it on LinkedIn, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, James Bond Advantage, easy
Yeah,
peasy.
and you can find me, Selim Maalouf. I'm gonna have our links right here. And
It's
thank you
not
everyone for
fair.
listening.
It's not
Why?
fair, dude.
You?
Because you just have your name. Like, I can't have my name.
How many Selim Maloufs do you know?
I know one, but I mean, like,
It's
you may only
it's
know the
funny.
one James Bond, but I can't have like LinkedIn at James Bond. Like, that doesn't work. I have to come up
Yeah,
with something else all the time.
yeah. Imagine if you're called John Smith or something. So,
All right, we'll go with that.
yeah. So, everyone who's still listening to us rambling, thank you so much. I know a lot of you are. We've gotten some great feedback. If you're listening, please keep it up. Tell us about it. It makes our day, makes our week. We're doing this not just because we enjoy it, but also we want to share our thoughts, expertise, and just entertain everybody. So stay tuned for next time, and thank you.